Welcome back to Auto Upgrade Nation, the home where legendary machines get the spotlight they deserve. And today, we are diving deep into a car that's more than just metal, horsepower, and curves. It's a rolling piece of American racing history. I'm talking about none other than the 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona, showcased in stunning bright white. This beast wasn't just built to look cool on the street, it was engineered to dominate the racetrack, break records, and etch its name into automotive legend forever. Buckle up, because this journey into one of the most outrageous muscle cars ever created is going to be unforgettable. When you see the 1969 Dodge Daytona for the very first time, the first thing that hits you is that long, aggressive nose cone and the gigantic rear wing that almost looks like it belongs on a jet plane rather than a car. This wasn't some gimmick or flashy styling trick. No, Dodge had one thing in mind when they built this car: winning in NASCAR. Back in the late 60s, stock car racing was exploding in popularity, and manufacturers like Ford, Chevy, and Dodge were locked in a battle for dominance. Dodge engineers realized that brute horsepower alone wasn't enough. Aerodynamics were the new secret weapon, and the Daytona was their bold answer to the challenge. Underneath that bright white paint lies a story of engineering genius. The Daytona started life as a Dodge Charger 500, but Chrysler's engineers took it further by stretching out that nose with a 19-inch aerodynamic cone, smoothing airflow at high speeds, and adding that massive 23-inch tall rear wing to keep the car glued to the pavement at over 200 miles per hour. That's right. This was the very first car in NASCAR history to break the 200 miles per hour barrier, and it did it way back in 1970 with Buddy Baker behind the wheel. Think about that. While most cars on the road back then were struggling to hit 100, this monster was doubling it with room to spare. Pop open the hood, and you'll find the heart of this beast. Buyers had a choice of two legendary engines, the 440 Magnum V8 or the ultimate power plant, the 426 HEMI. Both of these engines were absolute monsters, capable of delivering raw muscle in ways that made the Daytona a street terror as well as a track legend. The HEMI version, in particular, pumped out 425 horsepower on paper, but in reality, it was closer to 470 horses. Numbers aside, the sound of that HEMI roaring through open headers was enough to make gearheads weak at the knees. And let's not forget, the 1969 Dodge Daytona wasn't just about speed. It was about standing out. In bright white, this car carries a certain purity, a contrast between elegance and aggression. While most people remember the Daytona in wild high-impact Mopar colors like HEMI orange, top banana yellow, or R4 red, the bright white Daytona almost looks like a ghost on wheels. Clean, sharp, and intimidating in its simplicity. It's like the calm before the storm, because once that key turns, you know chaos is about to break loose. Step inside the cabin, and you'll notice Dodge didn't overcomplicate things. The Daytona had a straightforward interior, classic Mopar dash layout, big speedometer, vinyl bucket seats, and a no-nonsense vibe. Remember, this was a purpose-built car. It wasn't about luxury, it was about victory. Still, that simplicity makes the interior feel raw and authentic, like you're sitting inside a piece of racing equipment rather than a luxury coupe. Now, here's where the Daytona story gets even more interesting. Dodge built just 503 examples of the Daytona to satisfy NASCAR's homologation rules, meaning they had to sell a certain number to the public to be eligible for racing. And because of that low production run, these cars are now among the most sought-after collectibles in the entire muscle car world. Back in 1969, many buyers didn't quite get it. Some people thought the wing looked ridiculous, and dealers had trouble moving them off the lot. Believe it or not, some sat unsold for years, and there were stories of dealers removing the wings just to make them easier to sell. Fast forward to today, and collectors are paying well over $500,000 for pristine examples, with HEMI-powered Daytonas pushing into the multi-million-dollar territory at high-end auctions. That's right. What was once laughed at as over-the-top styling is now recognized as pure genius. The Daytona wasn't just a game-changer, it forced NASCAR to completely rewrite its rulebook. The car was simply too dominant. Alongside its sibling, the Plymouth Superbird, the Daytona was part of what fans call the Aero Wars, a period where manufacturers pushed aerodynamics to the extreme. After seeing just how unbeatable these winged warriors were, NASCAR banned them after 1970 by limiting engine size for aero cars, effectively ending the short but legendary reign of the Daytona. That rule change alone proves how ahead of its time this car really was. Now, let's talk about driving experience. Imagine yourself behind the wheel of this bright white Daytona, that massive HEMI rumbling under the hood, the long nose stretching out in front of you like a fighter jet's fuselage. As you push down on the throttle, you're not just accelerating, you're defying the air itself. That wing kicks in, stabilizing the rear, keeping the car planted in a way no other muscle car of the era could achieve. At high speed, it feels more like you're flying low to the ground than driving. That's the kind of innovation Dodge delivered in 1969, and that's why enthusiasts still revere this car more than 50 years later. The cultural impact of the Daytona can't be overstated either. It has been featured in countless car shows, documentaries, magazines, and collector events. Pop culture cemented its fame too, with winged Mopars making appearances in video games, movies, and TV shows. Even kids who don't know much about classic muscle cars can recognize the outrageous silhouette of the Daytona. It's that iconic. What makes the bright white Daytona so special is how it balances outrageous design with understated class. Unlike the loud colors, the white version feels like a sleeper until you look closer and realize you're standing next to a car that literally reshaped racing history. It's the kind of car that draws crowds silently, because people don't just see it, they respect it. And here's the kicker. Dodge's bold move with the Daytona wasn't just about winning races, it was about building a legend. The Daytona gave birth to a legacy of Mopar dominance, inspiring future generations of muscle cars. Without the Daytona, who knows if we'd have the same passion for aero engineering in performance cars today. To wrap it up, the 1969 Dodge Charger Daytona in bright white isn't just a muscle car. It's a rolling statement of what happens when engineers dare to push boundaries, when a company refuses to play it safe, and when design meets purpose in the most extreme way possible. From NASCAR domination to collector superstardom, the Daytona has done it all. And over 5 decades later, its wing still casts a shadow longer than most cars can dream of. So next time you see one in person, whether it's sitting pretty at a car show or roaring down the strip, take a moment to appreciate what you're looking at. Because cars like the Daytona don't just happen, they're born from passion, from competition, and from the desire to create something unforgettable. Thanks for riding along with me today on Auto Upgrade Nation. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the legendary Dodge Daytona, smash that like button, hit subscribe, and drop a comment below. What's your favorite Mopar muscle car of all time? Until next time, keep upgrading, keep dreaming, and keep the spirit of these legends alive.